the CM Punk promo. The WWE put on a Monday Night Raw last night, live from Nashville, Tennessee.
No commercials in the first hour either.
No commercials in the first hour. I love that. We discussed yesterday morning, myself, you, and Dave, where we would have liked to have seen the Punk promo air in the show. I don't think any of us voted for end of the show. I think we all kind of wanted to see him come out earlier, but we did mention the business of saving him for the end. That's very, very old school. Just save that for the end and go over the hours with some of the other bigger stars, which they did with Randy and with Cody. So they built along the way. The main thread of the show was Randy's match against Dom, which they started in the middle. They started in the beginning. They gave us a little in the middle, and then they paid it off at the end. And then obviously they built up the Punk promo. So at about 10:51 Eastern time last night, Mark, CM Punk's music hit, and he came out with about 9 minutes left of live television time. I was saying to myself, I wonder if they're going to go over the 11 p.m. hour and get some overrun on this. They didn't. Punk had 9 minutes to himself for entrance and promo. Let's broad stroke this from 30,000 feet, Mark. The floor is yours. What did you think of the entire CM Punk promo segment from last night? More importantly, how did you feel about what he had to say?
You know what, Bully, I enjoyed the promo. I thought it was very informative. I thought it was real. And there were people that didn't like the fact that he said home. And let me remind y'all, they always say home is where the heart is. So if his heart was there and his heart was broken, what do you do when your heart is broken? Scorched earth. You let the world know that your heart is hurt. And you want everybody else to feel pain too. So it seemed like with a sound mind and a comfortable heart, now you get a Punk that's not worried about sticking it to you, but you get a CM Punk that's like, I am who I am. And that's basically the promo that he cut. It was like Popeye on steroids.
Okay.
I'm the best in this ring. I'm the best on this mic. And I feel bad, almost, if you can't stand up to that. But there's some people that are going to wake up and they're going to realize that I'm just fucking good. And there's nothing that you can do about it except for raise your game. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to raise the level of the game. And I enjoyed the promo, Bully. I thought that it told me a lot about where he is in his heart. He's not mad no more. He also said, squash the bullshit. We don't have beef in the locker room. Excuse me. He said people hugged him, kissed him, embraced him, said, welcome back, man. So he basically said, y'all can stop printing the bad press. He said it is what it is. And of course, he said in the middle of that, yeah, and there is some people that don't like me. And that's fine too. Because, Bully, you say it on this show all the time. We're not here to please everybody. We're here to please the fans. And that's what he's trying to do. I feel like he's finally at a point to where he don't have to go scorched earth. So if he don't have to go scorched earth and he could just concentrate on wrestling, that's what we all want. That's what I want. I want it to be all about wrestling. I don't want to hear no outside stories. I don't want to hear that person don't like this. That has nothing to do with wrestling. We want CM Punk to be fully invested and ready to go for pro wrestling and not any of the other foolishness.
Now, Mark, when you say scorched earth, are you saying that on social media there were fans who wanted CM Punk to go scorched earth?
Yeah, they wanted him to. They want the negativity. They want him to bash AEW and name names and talk about the negativity that happened and whatever problems led to this and that. There's no reason for that. Y'all know enough of that. You know about it.
And this is not a Monday night war where a WWF and WCW were taking massive shots at one another at any given moment because it was a true war. The WWE at this time is not going to acknowledge AEW on their television show. Allowing Punk to go out there, and I don't even think Punk wanted to do this, no idea. Allowing him to go out there and go scorched earth on AEW would never happen, because in the world of WWE, they don't view AEW as competition, especially with the business that they're doing now. This is all about CM Punk and his time in WWE from 10 years ago and fast forwarding to last night. So you were never going to get this shoot pipe bomb-esque promo where Punk talks about the Bucks and Kenny and Tony. Just ain't going to happen, people.
No. And no reason to.
Correct. There's absolutely no reason to. Mark, did you feel like Punk believed everything that he said?
I did. I truly did, Bullet. Like, you could see it in his face. You could tell when somebody is performing and when there's conviction. And he had conviction on his face. Like, he don't want to be on the wrong side of history. You don't want to go down in history as the bitter guy that you know made it all about you and the hell with everybody else. And I mean, you look at Punk's last matches when he was at AEW, he tried his best to perform at a high level, which he did. He put people over. What else is there to do? You can argue.
Mark, listen. I never like to put. Fuck it. You were there with him. You were there with him. You are the best first-hand account of how he was in AEW. So you're telling us he wanted to put people over. He wanted to do business the right way. He wanted to do all of these positive things, but somehow, some way, we got a bunch of negativity with him. Why?
I wish I knew. I think that old regimes and new regimes, you have to put that in the front right away. And I don't think that, and it's my opinion, like, you know, it's not etched in stone or anything, but everybody was not on the same page, I don't think. I think that, you know, like there was a aura of the old guard and the new guard, and we're more important one way or the other. Like, you should listen to me. I've been there, done that before. You should listen to us. We know the pulse of the future. So it was just, I feel like that you got to put all of your cards on the table and everybody talk and communicate. Like, if you don't talk and communicate, then you're going to have issues.
Fair enough. When he talked about the warm welcome he received in the back. talking about people coming up to him, shaking his hand, hugging him. He even joked around and said, a couple of people even kissed me on the mouth. I took that as a serious comment, not the kissing on the mouth. I took that as he was saying that the talent back there greeted him in a nice way and were welcoming to him and embraced him with open arms. Do you believe that?
I do.
Okay.
I truly do.
Okay.
But one thing that I also believe is he said there was also some people that weren't happy to see him.
Right. And I believe he was alluding to Seth Rollins and what happened with Seth Rollins. But the takeaway that I got from that line was the majority of people are here we're welcoming me back, and we're very positive. Here's the problem I have with the line that everybody's talking about this morning. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. Now, that is the number one thing in pro wrestling. What a lot of people don't realize is this is a business. And the number one, the number one goal in this business is to make money. And hey, if you do make a couple of friends along the way in one of the most cutthroat businesses I've ever seen in my life, okay, good for you. You made a couple on the way. So I didn't understand him saying, hey, everybody in the back was so cool and welcomed me with open arms, but I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And that was the most realistic thing I heard him say last night, because he had that Punk-esque look on his face, that Punk-esque grin, and he looked down the barrel of the handheld camera and hit that line. Do you think that line hit home with everybody in the back? Do you think Punk kind of showed his hand a little bit about his willingness to be as welcoming as everybody else?
I think so. I think that also, Bully, like when you tell somebody, look, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money, you're also telling them to be about the business. Like, we have a boss, and you got to do what it takes to make business run well. And it's not my personal feeling, because Punk is not going to be writing the show. Punk is not going to be producing the show. Punk is a player in the game. So you do your job, play your role, and then everybody makes a lot of money. And granted, the WWE is making money hand over fist. They breaking records. They're doing all of this stuff. And business was fine before Punk. But you know what? Before WWE bought WCW, we were doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, we were.
And then you got Jericho. And then you got Booker T. And you got all of these great wrestlers that came along and added more to the industry and the business, which made us make even more money. That is what Punk's job to do.
And the first metric that has come back was this 71 million views across social media, breaking all records within the WWE. So, you know, when it comes to knowing how over you are in this business, or how did Punk's comeback go, there's only one way to tell as of right now: social media. We don't know what a buy rate was, and if the buy rate was through the roof or if it was the shits, it's not Punk's fault. We don't put the praise on Punk, or we don't blame Punk, because Punk wasn't advertised for the show. So we can't say the buy rate is because of Punk. There's nothing we can directly put our finger on CM Punk for, and how he did that night, what he meant to the WWE that night, other than social media. And if you're only going by social media, which seems to run the world these days, 70 1 million hits across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, your sister's ass, everything. The number one most viewed thing by the WWE is not because of Steve Austin. It's not because of The Rock. It's not because of The Undertaker, Triple H, Vince McMahon, blah,
Hogan.
blah, blah. It's because of CM Punk. If that is the number one thing, they're off to one hell of a start with him.
Bro, that is crazy.
Now, the rating, and I put more stock into the ratings than you guys do, which is totally fine. Yesterday, we talked about how we don't always agree on something, but I still believe that the rating is very indicative of stuff. Last night, Monday Night Raw, I thought was a well-balanced show, planned out very well with the stars they used to go over the hours with.
Yeah.
Ended with Punk, and there was an extremely lackluster Monday Night Football game on. And I'm not an excuse guy, Mark. The only thing that I believe truly can affect a pro wrestling product is Monday Night Football. Because there's a hard crossover. Like sometimes I see things out there like, oh, Dancing with the Stars did 12 million, 12 billion people. That's why people didn't watch something. I don't buy into it. Monday Night Football, different story. But last night, the Bears and the Vikings, whoever the hell played, I don't think it was a very good game last night. It wasn't like the game that we got last week versus the Chiefs and the Eagles, which did like 27 million viewers. It put a dent into anything that was on Monday night at that given time. So tonight's number will really tell you about how strong the WWE was last night. And I'm very interested to see, Mark, how Punk did in the final quarter hour. Before we go to break, what's your last thought?
My last thought is the crowd, too. The crowd at the pay-per-view and the crowd last night. The anticipation of what was to come. I love the fact that they started the show with Randy Orton and they had his match in the main event at the end of the show, and they had things sprinkled in there. Hell, the addition of R-Truth being back. Man, Bronson Reed and Ivar, like they're guys are stepping up. You're going to see the step-up effect, because if you don't, you're not going to get TV time. And that's the thing that I feel like that people need to realize. What do they say? I feel like George Bush right now. The rising seas.
Oh yeah, the rising tides,
all boats.
The rises the boats, and your sister's ass.
Yeah,
something like that. Right.
A rising sea lifts all boats, and that's what I feel like. The wave is so high that everybody else is going to have to go up with it, and we're going to see some. Man, even Piper Niven was moving like a cat last night.
And Mark, I know you're going to understand this, and I think you'll agree. When Randy said, "Daddy's home," you have the worker of all workers back in the locker room. Mm-hmm. You better up your game. Bronson, I'm still breathing heavy just from watching your match last night. Wow. Listen, you and Ivar, you're two big men, brother, and we're going to speak openly about this much. We're all big dudes. We're all 300-pounders, out here, and we know what it's like to be in that ring. And when you start getting into deep water, when you're putting time on, just carrying our own load is a lot. Now you got a guy standing across from you who weighs as much, if not more than you do. And you're 10, 12 minutes in, you're breathing heavy. Talk to me about the entire match last night, and what it felt like to be out there battling Ivar much past the double disqualification and out through the arena.
I feel like this is something that the fans right now really want to see. It's sort of been coined Monday Night Meat.
Yes.
So there's a few of us on the Monday Night Raw roster. There's myself, there's Ivar, there's Gunther, who you could throw in there as a super heavyweight. There's Otis. There's a lot of meat to be slapped on Mondays, and I'm trying to reign that division. And last night was really it. Big men, yeah, big men slapping meat, but not
meat
just that.
Slapping Mondays.
Exactly.
Meat slapping Mondays. There you go.
I've let my fans know that they're now meatheads. That's what I call my fans. All meatheads.
Love it.
But yeah, last night was a good test for myself. As I said, I want to be the king of that division. Ivar is just up there with me. I'm 350. I think he's about 345. Like, as you said, even just walking around doing things like that is not a easy experience for guys us big. So to get in there and have someone that's matched my size and try and do things that I do to the smaller guys is really a test of my will.
That match reminded me of a match that I had with Bill DeMott.
Okay, yes.
When he was Hugh Morris, we did the Pillman show.
Yep.
And Ricky Steamboat saw us and said, "Holy shit, boys. Like, it's good to see that psychology still exists in our business, but also to see big guys leapfrogging, crossbody, hip toss, going over the top to the floor. Like, you guys, to be able to do all of that stuff after 10, 12 minutes, it gets risky. Did y'all think at any point that maybe we should downplay stuff? Because it didn't look like it.
No, yeah. I never really, I have things in my back pocket just in case, but I sort of try to work matches into my advantage, with my size. But it is hard when you're in there with someone the same size. I'm picking him up for a Death Valley driver 15 minutes in, and it's like, this guy is huge. He barely fits on my shoulders. So that's where I think all the weight training, everything that we do, like yourself, Mark, like comes into play. Although having a barbell on your shoulders and back is a little different to someone that's, round on your back. So, but yeah, I always try to one up, especially now the style of wrestling, like is so fast paced and fast moving. I think, why can't the big guys do that as well?
You guys definitely did that last night. And once you took that fight to the outside, I think people really started to get into it, and they were appreciating, the big men throwing each other around and willing to take some risks out there. There was one particular moment in the match. Ivar has started to do this running cross body up against the ring apron, the screen, like when you're coming down the ramp, there's that Monday Night Raw screen on the side of the ring, and you were seated there, and here comes Ivar running, and he gives you a cross body. Now, most of the time when we're taking a cross body, we can bump with it or it'll knock us down. You have nowhere to go with that running cross body, and we're all thick men. There's going to be a massive collision. When there's a massive collision and there's nowhere to go, it takes a lot out of you. What's it like feeling that type of impact from a guy that's just as big as you in Ivar?
I think it's like getting to sort of wrestle a version of myself, which I'm, not prepared for. So when someone gives me a crossbody or something that big, I'm like, oh, this must be what it feels like to take it from myself. Also, with that particular thing, having the screen behind me, like you said, usually you'd bump, or if I'm in the corner and someone runs and does a squisher to me, I can sort of get a little bit of give. Whereas with that one, there's no give. So it's just the wind being sucked out of me.
I know, like being on the end of stuff like that myself, there's no way you can not have the wind knocked out of you. And I know this is going to be hard to fathom for wrestling fans, but the only thing that you can do in that moment is relax. Because if you're letting all the wind out, then you can't get the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Are you able to relax in that moment, Bronson?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but at the same time, I feel like it's almost natural instinct for me to puff up my chest and try and almost meet his impact with my own force as well. So, and with those sort of moves, you get squished a little bit too much, and some wind definitely comes out of somewhere. I tell you that.
The reaction from
Bully,
the fans.
we know all about that.
Guys, I will tell you the God's honest truth. I never liked working with guys my size.
Yes.
Never.
I get
Because
it.
I did.
You
did.
And why?
I always wanted to prove it. And I told our producer, Paul, last night, I said, Paul, he'll tell you when he comes on that I've always liked him, that I've always tried to help him as much as I could. I see greatness in him. He is somebody that I would have wanted to wrestle, that I would have went to the office and said, hey, it's going down. Yeah. I want it. And you should be able to do that with all the other big guys. You talk about big men slapping meat, that you want to lead that division, create it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go to the office and tell them, hey, if I want all the big guys. If somebody's sitting at home not doing nothing and they over 300 pounds, we got to have a match next week.
Oh yeah.
You know, Bronson, and Mark is saying this, and things just came up in my mind. You guys could be the catalyst for like an open weight division or a 300-pounder division. Like in New Japan, don't they have that open weight where anybody? You guys could almost create a super heavyweight division where maybe there is a super heavyweight championship. I mean, I'm not a fan of more championships, but I am a fan of a championship for a specific reason. And do you think that you guys, the crop of talent that you have there right now, like you mentioned, you and Ivar and Otis and any of the other big men there, do you think you'd be given an opportunity to be able to, maybe open up the eyes of creative into a big man's division?
I definitely think there's enough interest there. I said even back when 205 Live started, I'm like, there should be a 305 Live. We have enough super heavyweights that are exciting to do some sort of division like that. But in the same aspect, I don't want to be pigeonholed to being just the super heavyweight guy. I think, in my personal opinion, it's time for people that are world heavyweight champions to be heavyweight champions and eat some sandwiches.
Come on,
love it.
Yeah, so
Dusty didn't need abs, and neither do we.
No, exactly. No, that's where I'm taking it.
It already exists. You have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Also have an Andre the Giant Championship, and it don't have to be a title belt because title belts don't fit around our waist anyway.
No,
make it a trophy. Make it a trophy. I want the big man trophy. And I want to see a scale. Everybody that come out, if you don't weigh over 280 pounds, I'm sorry, you can't do it. We did this years ago.
Yeah.
And Crash Holly came out. Crash wanted to go and have a match with one of the super heavies. And he stepped on the scale and he was 200 pounds. And like, sorry, no. There's levity that can be brought into this.
Yes,
it's a great story. I hope y'all can work that out over there.
Bronson, I love the 305 Live idea. I really do. Because you know what? In like 205 Live, right? Yeah, a bunch of small guys flying around the ring. But to see a bunch of 300-pounders slugging it out, and then every once in a while breaking out the moonsault like an Ivar does, or your top rope splash, man, I just think the people are going to be so. so into that. That is a great idea, and I hope you guys are given an opportunity to open up that division a little bit more. Speak to us about the other big guys in the division. Is there another bigger guy? You and Ivar seem to have great chemistry. Is there another bigger guy in the company that you'd like to also work with?
Yeah, that was the first time myself and Ivar had ever touched last night. That's the first time we'd ever wrestled. So it seemed like there was definitely some chemistry there, very similar in stature, but also with what we can do in the ring. You know, and there's still a few tricks that Ivar didn't pull out, that I didn't pull out, that I think we'll see in the future. I've worked with Otis, who again is another big, thick man, but then, as we said, there's Omos, who's 7'4". He's another beast, you know, we're all the stout, round heavyweights, but then you have this giant that's in the division. And I think eventually you're going to see it.
Look like the number 1,000 if Amos stood there and then the rest of y'all stood next to him.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I gotta take out brother's knees if I'm wrestling him. That's what I'm telling you that.
The fans, like I said, gave you guys a lot of support last night. They were very much into the match. They were very much into the brawl afterwards. Talk to me about backstage. What kind of reception did you get backstage? With thumbs up? Any good advice that you got? Did the boys enjoy it?
Funnily enough, it was a locker room sellout, that match. You know, I think there's enough moments in that match where guys backstage are actually oohing and ahhing for things. So whenever I'm in a match that's a locker room sellout, I'm like, okay, that's a thumbs up from me, because, you know, the boys like it. But Office liked it as well. Like, I think it's something that, yeah, we're going to get to see more of, especially on Monday nights. Fridays, I'm not too sure about. I think SmackDown now is getting a bit more cruiserweight heavy. So we might be a bit of a competition of the cruiserweights on Friday and the super heavies on Mondays, and see who can outdo each other.
So. I hope so. I'm for it all night long. And Bully has described the locker room sellout, the curtain sellout.
Yeah.
And how important that is in wrestling, because that's the true, the fans matter. The fans matter. Don't get me twisted when I say what I'm about to say. But when all the guys stop doing what they're doing and catering empties,
yeah,
and you see all the guys peeking through the curtain, sitting at a monitor, up in the gorilla position, trying to watch the TVs, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best feeling I ever got, like to get the respect of my peers. The guys that I'm in the trenches with going, hey, this shit excited me. Thank you, man. Like did you feel that from the guys?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I got backstage, and obviously you go through Gorilla. Gorilla's a bit of its own beast now with the way that it's set up, and then head backstage, and we have monitors in our locker room now. So everyone said they were glued to the locker room. Everyone's saying like, oh, this, you guys did that. You did, you know, they're all excited for what's next as well. So it makes me proud of my work for sure.
Bronson, the last time we spoke with you, I believe you were out on the independent scene, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I was doing some work with Impact, and then headed into more New Japan Pro Wrestling.
So talk to me about you coming back to the WWE. Talk to me about that first phone call or that first contact, and what is different now for you being back in the WWE?
I think for me, so when I was released, I had pretty much wrapped up my time in NXT, and I was supposed to debut on Friday Night SmackDown, and then that didn't happen. So all these, you know, this time later, I'd spent a lot of time in New Japan. I sort of rediscovered myself, redefined who I was, and I spoke with Hunter. And at the time, I could have taken a contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, or Hunter offered me a contract with WWE. And I definitely had unfinished business. I wanted to do the Monday Night Raws, SmackDown, WrestleManias, all these things that only WWE has. So that was sort of my deciding factor to come back. And since coming back, it's been great. Like, I enjoy being on the road. I know it's a lot every weekend, doing live shows, doing Monday Night Raw, but that's sort of the guy that I am. So I'm getting to live the dream, I guess.
Do you have an opinion on the return of CM Punk.
I was waiting for the question. I knew it was going to come up. But
why not?
In my opinion, I think it's good for WWE. It's great business. I think you'd be silly not to bring him out. So it was sort of surreal, honestly, to see him there last night and doing his promo in the ring, because it's just something I didn't even 2 months ago. I was like, that would never happen. So very surreal.
Never say never.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, do you have a match tonight coming up?
I do.
Talk to us about your match tonight on NXT.
Yeah, so tonight I'm going to be in there with 3 of the cruiserweights. So tonight I'm going to get to throw my weight around a little bit more, obviously without another 350-pound man in that ring. So maybe I'm going to have to stack them up and throw them around that way. So it's myself versus Wesley, who's in NXT, Johnny Gargano's returning from Monday Night Raw, and Cameron Grimes for Friday Night SmackDown in a fatal 4-way match. Main event, I can see it being a pretty crazy match.
Yep, tonight on USA at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bronson, when you get told, or not asked, you're told by WWE, hey, you're working tonight on Raw, and then you're working Tuesday on NXT. How do you look at that? Does that concern you, like, oh, they're going to ask me to work in NXT? Is that a problem? Or do you just look at it now as, this is my job, whatever they ask me to do, I'm going to go do to the best of my ability, and then next week's a new week?
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty cemented in my spot on Monday nights, but this is my first return match to NXT since coming back to WWE. So it's definitely something I wanted to do anyway, get to work with Shawn Michaels again. So it should be fun, but I think NXT at the moment is almost a little bit of a revolving door for guys on SmackDown and Raw, and they're trying to make it almost a little bit of a super show with the younger talent to, bring them up as well.
And listen, you came up in NXT, so you understand and appreciate it.
I do. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I miss that place, and at the same time, it gives me PTSD. So we'll see how tonight goes.
Hey, Bully, I want to let you know right now that I did a couple of big man camps at NXT, and Bronson was the star of the Mark Henry big man camps, and I grow very fond of him because of how hard he works. And, we always believe in giving people their flowers and patting them on the back when they do something good. Brother, when you got let go, it hurt all of us.
Oh, thank you.
Because we knew that you was better than the opportunity that you were given. Now that you have another one, don't leave anything up for chance.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to take. It's not your nature. You're a good man.
Yeah.
And I love that. Keep being a good man. I'm raising my son to be a good man. But when you cross those lines, you got to take.
Oh, 100%. I feel like this time around, definitely being in New Japan gave me a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that I saw what was happening with the current product. And I'm like, I can not only be there, I can be one of the top guys there. So
wait, Bronson, you said a chip on your shoulder. Do you mean a newfound confidence, or do you mean a legitimate chip on your shoulder?
I mean, if there was a legitimate chip, I would have eaten it, it'd be gone. But the newfound confidence for sure. I got in the ring with Okada, who I think is one of the best guys in the world, and we went 25 minutes, 27 minutes twice. So I was like, I can do this main event in Tokyo. Like, I can main event anywhere in the world. And I think Triple H saw that. He watched those matches, and I think that was a little bit of a factor of me coming back as well. So there's still a lot more that I need to do while I'm here. But as you said, Mark, I'm not going to, this time around, it's a little bit different.
I want everybody to gather around their radio or listening device right now, family and friends and wrestling fans all over the world, as we get Mick Foley's reaction to CM Punk's promo from Monday Night Raw.
Man, I almost wish I hadn't been listening to you guys when you called it safe. Look, he's a master on the mic, and it was a really strong promo. One thing, yeah, what we do have to realize, and I tell some of the younger talent this, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And he's laying the groundwork for what should be an incredible run. If he can remember, this is like one thing I used to tell him is Phil and I were pretty close at one time, and he couldn't get motivated for the Undertaker. And he felt like they'd taken that main event spot away from him. And I'd say, Phil, the main event is what the fans decide the main event is.
Amen.
Right? You go out there and you decide what your own WrestleMania moments are. So, like, I don't brag about much, but I felt like Edge and I had the match of the night in 2006, and no one will be able to tell me differently. So that was my WrestleMania moment. I didn't need somebody stamping the words main event on it to tell me how I felt when that match was done. And so I was like, man, I just feel like if you can't appreciate working with Undertaker at at WrestleMania, and if you win the AEW title and the focus becomes not on the joy of that title, but on airing your grievances, then you've done a disservice to the title. This is all that I'm going to say also when he had the interaction with Jungle Boy. If the feeling after drawing the largest non WWE crowd in the history of the United Kingdom is not on that crowd, but on a backstage fight, again, you've done a disservice to the company. So I hope this is going to be Punk's last run. I hope he finds a way to enjoy it. I believe he'll do whatever he needs to do to be as good as he can possibly be. I disagreed with a couple of those guys. The great worker thing was something else, because I've seen Punk, granted, 10 years ago, up close enough times, and I was one of the guys pushing for him to come into WWE after watching him in Ring of Honor. So I know this guy has torn down the house over the course of a few decades now, and I know he has the pride to tear it down again. I just hope, as a human being, that Phil will. I mean, I'm not trying to be cave, but that Punk will enjoy it and rise to the occasion of the big moments, so that we as fans are talking about what we should be talking about when those matches are over, and not some extracurricular activity.
Okay, so I think that's fair feedback, but I want to take you back to what you opened with, and that's the word safe. Why did the word safe resonate with you?
Because it seemed like it was appropriate. But I'm not worried at all, because I've always felt, and I don't know if you've heard me apply the gear shifting, whether it's in character or in a match. Like a knock on a couple of great wrestlers was they didn't have that fourth or fifth gear. They never quite got past that. Someone's promos may be good, but they go in circles. So I think that it's perfectly fine to come out of the box safe, especially if he's got a multi-year contract, which I hear he might, because you can take that places, and now you're going to make it personal. One thing really resonated. It's not, and everything he said was true, and he believed in everything he said. But I'm completely fine with the promo he gave, because once the issues become personal, now Punk will shift into that other gear. And I believe that he will. When he talks about people being scared, there were a couple of people on record. Now he's calling people out. He's setting the table for a pretty bountiful buffet, and he's got, I don't want to go too long with the food analogy, but he's got all kinds of entrees out there. And I think, some of the not older, more seasoned, established guys are going to want to take on Punk. And then I think some of the guys who grew up watching him are going to not only consider it an honor, but they're going to want to live up to his lofty standards. And he's a guy who can work with anyone. And if Father Time and Mother Nature have started, as they do all, commence to kick some butt on all of us, he's a smart enough worker. Not smart enough. He's one of the smartest workers I've ever seen. He'll find a way. Great ones find a way. And in a lot of cases, they become better as their physical skills begin to erode. I'm not talking about when they're shot. but I'm talking about when you no longer have all the tools at your disposal. You become a better wrestler because you connect in better ways. Your timing's better. Your feel for the crowd's better. So I expect huge things from him. I just hope he enjoys it. I mean, this is one of those things. Me and DDP need to sit down with Phil and just implore him to enjoy the moment. I've always said one of the big.
He's not gonna like getting punched in the shoulder.
I know, man. Yeah, about the difference between me and Punk is I took all 50 or 30 of those things. About the fourth time DDP punched Punk in the shoulder, it'd be like, bro, enough with the positivity. You're killing me.
What do you think about the maturity, though? Didn't you feel like there was a lot more maturity in that promo?
I think there was. Yeah, I think there was. Now, if he had gone on and raised issues, like I said, when he won the title, and the only thing people were talking about was the grievances. That's an issue. So I think WWE being home, that connected with me. Mark, I know you're elsewhere now. Bully, you've left, you've come back. I don't know if it's the same without Vince there to give you the father figure hug when you come back. That was always something we needed, whether we knew it or not, or really wanted. But it's home. I mean, no matter how far I go, it's always my home. And I feel like he meant it. I think he meant it, and I just hope he makes the most of it. I really do.
Mick, you know Hunter very well. You've worked with him in all shapes and forms. What do you think that phone call was like? Do you think it was a long, elaborate, drawn-out call, or do you think it was brutally to the point?
It was probably pretty brief. Yeah, it was Hey, I want to give props to Hunter. Not because he runs the company, but because as a guy who no longer watches every episode, I really enjoy the fact that when I come on and watch, I can pick up the pieces. One of the knocks I had, when Mark was with WWE, but when you and I were with Impact, is that we ran through angles so fast that if you were not we catered to the fan who watched every single thing. So just a case in point, I thought MMA Jeff Jarrett back in the day was tremendous, and it was gone in 6 weeks. So that would have been to me like Rick Rude kissing 5 girls and getting his comeuppance from Jake Roberts on week 6. It ran for a year and a half before he got his comeuppance. So I love the fact that when I tune in, I can pick up the pieces. Okay, I see now that there's a little trouble in paradise as far as Judgment Day goes. Same thing. There's little fractures in the bloodline, but you can pick it up, and the pieces are still there, building towards huge matches. So I like that Triple H has called back people like Bronson Reed would probably be somebody that someone other than Hunter would have been. All right, he had his day, he didn't set the world on fire, but Hunter sees something in a guy like that, and the proof. Not to overdo the cliches, but last night, man, proof was in the pudding because those guys tore it down, and they really are redefining what it means to be a big man. And I was always somebody who liked imagination. I didn't have the physical skills, so I had to use imagination. But the idea of Bronson Reed picking up a security guard and using the security guard as essentially like a lawn dart to knock down Ivar, like that's really cool stuff. And I'm glad that the big dudes are getting a chance. I dare say, Bully, you and I maybe played a hand in changing opinions there. Mark, you were in a little different situation with the Olympic background. But I think that we opened some eyes, and I think Triple H has got eyes wide open when it comes to outside the box type of projects.
Mick, I'll ask you your opinion on one more person. You got about 1 minute. Your take on LA Knight.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been watching as much. I think it's funny when I hear Kevin Nash and LA Knight feuding. And he's like, I think Kevin's knock on him is he's a cross between Rock and Steve Austin. And I'm thinking, that's not a bad guy to be a cross
At
between,
all.
like you're talking, look, you and I are looking face to face. We'll just grant you that we stole half of what we did from Terry Funk. The key is to make it your own. And this guy has made it his own. He's very sharp on the microphone. I mean, when you have John Cena coming in to be your backup, that's a major it's a major achievement and a sign to the fans. This guy should be taken seriously. He's catching fire. I know he didn't come out on top at the last PPV or whatever they're calling it these days.
PLE, right?
Yeah, live event. Sky's kind of the limit, I mean, well, let's see where he goes. What's his gear? So that's the question. Like, he gets all of our attention, does it pretty um, very easily. And so we're going to see what gears he has to shift into in 2024. But certainly that guy, LA Knight coming out on top in Royal Rumble would be a major sign, right? And I'd put him in my top 5 choices to win that Rumble.